Did you just tell me about open mic?
Share your screen with your audience.
No,
Is it shared?
no,
Don't.
Don't
Oh, yeah,
share
that would be
screen.
my.
Don't. Dad.
Shh.
Dad.
Move.
Me and Mom were FaceTiming on the laptop, so test the cameras out and get an angle. And Mom was trying to flip the camera around on the laptop.
No, bro.
They're telling technology jokes about me.
And Mom?
Yeah, Ron. They can hear you.
Well, what are y'all
They can hear you making fun of me.
They didn't come in here to see your conversation.
Mom, did you
Here.
start? Yep.
I did not start yet.
Okay.
Shoes off. Get
Sorry,
comfortable.
I couldn't figure it out, but it's fine.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. I'm so glad you're here. Kelly, Tina. Oh my gosh, Dorothy in the UK. Welcome, y'all. Welcome to Texas, Austin, Texas. Early question. Let me answer this from Kelly. I was watching several videos in the description. In the description, there are 3 different oven temps, 400, 415, and 425 for blind baking. What do you recommend now? That's a great question. And thank you for your patience on me making changes over, the years that I've been doing this. I change for different reasons. What I use now is 415 degrees for the first 20 minutes. But please know that everybody's oven is a little bit different. So you'll want to check it after 15 minutes and make sure it's not browning too much on the outside. So that's one thing. Also, some people over the years have been wary of using a frozen pie crust in a frozen pie plate, putting that into a 420. Sorry, my hair. I'm gonna wash my hands in a second. Putting that into a 425 degree oven. So to kind of take that fear away, I reduced it to 415 degrees, so it's not as hot. And although I also take other precautions as far as putting a frozen pie plate into the hot oven, I set it on a baking sheet lined with parchment paper. I let it sit at room temperature while the oven's preheating. So I'm not worried about that, and I've never had an issue with it, but I just try to kind of, reduce people's concerns about using a frozen crust and putting it into a hot oven. So that is why the temperatures have kind of changed. 400, I would stick with 415. That's what I use now, and that's what I recommend now. So hopefully that helps. Do check your pie, though, as it may. Sometimes there's hot spots. Sometimes the oven is just calibrated really hot. So check that. Hopefully that helps, Kelly. And then Tina, is it okay to freeze the pie crust in discs and then defrost, roll it out, and freeze again? Yes, I do that all the time. So yes, definitely can do that. Great question. Hi, Mark. Kelly, hi. So glad you're here. Is that the same? Is that the Kelly I just answered her question? I'm not sure. Jack? Okay. Okay. Tom, Niagara Falls. Very cool. Welcome. Daryl, hello from Ohio. My dad's from Ohio. That's cool. Sharon from New Jersey. My sister-in-law's in New Jersey. I love New Jersey. Hi, Roy. Hi from Baltimore, Maryland. Oh my gosh, I make at least 2 pies a month because of you. Wow, that's awesome. I'm just glad that y'all are having confidence making pies and having fun making pies, because I feel like it can get overcomplicated and then it's just a stressful situation, and that's, there's no need. There's no need. It can be fun. Insecure Chef, hello. So glad to have you here, my resident moderator. It feels like you've got so many good answers to questions. And and thank you also for your chemistry knowledge. That's been really helpful. Gina in Illinois, Winter Sun in Louisiana, Ottawa, Canada, Alabama. Look at this, White Lake, Michigan. This is so fun. Can I make bread dough with the Cuisinart? You can. I have made bread dough in the Cuisinart. I did not love it. And they do recommend it in, I believe it's like Cook's Illustrated or Tech's Kitchen. They do have a pizza recipe that they recommend to make in here. I felt like the dough got so stuck on the blade. I was terrified to try to pull it off. I thought I was going to slice my fingers up. So I just thought, I'm not doing that again. So I generally do not make dough in here, if that's what you're asking. I prefer to use the stand mixer. I'm just getting a few of these questions out of the way while people are joining still. Let's see, where'd I go? Oh, Tom. Okay, Kelly. Good. That answered your question. Let me know if you need anything else. Gloria Jean. Oh my goodness, y'all. Gloria Jean in North Carolina sent me pictures of her pie and said it was the prettiest pie she's ever made. And I think she may put me out of a job because they are the prettiest pies I have ever seen anyone make using my recipes. Can you see those? Look at that. She molded pumpkins. Oh my gosh. It was the placement of the pumpkins and the leaves was just gorgeous. So if you want to see one that's done really well, check out Gloria Jean's pie. And here's another. Here's her apple pie, which was stunning as well. That's what we're making today.
Are these people that follow you?
Yeah, she sent this to me.
Wow.
Yeah, right?
Great.
I mean, I was like, how'd you do the pumpkin? I want to learn something. So send me your pie pictures. I would love to share them. Look at this one, John. Look at that one.
Amazing.
We are so impressed. It looks like a magazine. Gloria Jean, you have a future in pies. Let's see. Karen made 2 pie crusts since yesterday. Great. Cynthia, Connie in New York, Fred, Indiana. Roy, haven't tried making a pie craft as of yet. Kind of scared to attempt. Well, I'm glad you're here. We're going to do one today. I'm going to do it in the food processor, but you can do it with your hands or in the KitchenAid stand mixer or with a pastry cutter. So I'll try to explain those ways as well, even though we probably won't do them all. Pie crust and cornbread. Great, Dana. Yum. Anne from Cork City. Christy from Tulsa. Oh, making dough in food processor is a disaster. Hey, everybody has their opinions. That's fine. Bonnie from Oregon. Oh, right. Kelly says gorgeous pies, Gloria. Chocolate tart was amazing. That's great to hear. Okay, having problems with crust sticking to glass pan. Fred. And hi, Diana from Texas. Let me address that crust sticking to the glass pan. Fred, take a breath. Generally, I don't have problems with it sticking to the glass pan. What you can do if you are worried about it and are having consistent problems with it, you can take a little bit of baking spray and just wipe it in the bottom. The key is that you don't want any baking spray up here or up here because that's going to allow your crust to just slide down. So if you want to, you can wipe a little bit down here. The other things you need to be aware of if you're having problems or worried about crust sticking is you definitely don't want to poke holes in your crust if you're making a pecan pie. An apple pie, any pie that's not going to be blind baked, because if you poke holes in the crust, as some people do, I think kind of the idea is that, you just poke pie crust. Every pie crust you make, you just poke it. You don't actually. You only bake it when you're blind baking the crust because the poking holes is supposed to prevent the bottom crust from bubbling up. That's why you poke them. If you poke them when you're doing a pecan pie, apple pie, pumpkin pie, if that raw filling or fruit pie, if that raw filling seeps down into those holes, you're going to end up with all this sugary substance filling cooked down between the crust and the bottom. And that is going to make it very, very, very sticky. So hopefully those ideas, it will help, Fred, with your sticky crust. Anything else?
Christy is trying a pie crust with vodka.
Oh, wonderful. I think that's great. I might throw in a little vodka here today. So if you're having problems with a tough crust, try subbing in 1 tablespoon vodka for 1 tablespoon water. And if you want more details on that, you can watch my video, Vodka Pie Crust. That explains it and shows the results that we got. So if you have alcohol, if you have vodka in your house and you want to use it, you can throw that in. Another option is vinegar, and many people have mentioned that. I found I could taste the vinegar just a little bit in the crust, which I didn't mind, but it did kind of alter the flavor, so I wanted to be careful about how much vinegar I put. I thought maybe just a teaspoon or two, but that will also help with if you have a tough crust. Third thing you can do for a tough crust is use baking powder, and I use 1.5 teaspoons in the crust, and that gives it this little bit of puff. It's really nice, a little different texture, not quite. It's soft and it's got some flakes, but it's also just a little bit softer texture. Anything else I need to run down?
I think so.
Okay, got my
Vince is from Belgium.
Oh, wonderful. Hi, Vince. Got my trusty assistant over here. He's helping me out again today. Jack is his name. So let's start. Let's just jump in. And so today's apple pie. We're going to do a full tutorial, which will be really fun. And I need to make it for Thanksgiving. So, hey, we're going to get something out of the way. So
Diana asked with the leaf stamp presses,
Yes.
she bought some, and they are sank in the filling.
Oh, the leaves did.
Yeah.
Diana, what, okay, you used it on pumpkin pie. Yes. So if you're using decorations on a custard soft filling, you have to put the decorations on after. Otherwise, they will sink into the filling. And sorry that wasn't clear. If it's not in the recipe, I'll make it clear. I think it is explained if you check my pumpkin pie video. I think that explains how you can bake the decorations separately and add them. Not quite yet. Just give me 1 second. I think that explains how you add the decorations after. You could add some to the very edge of the crust. If you kind of glue them on there with some egg wash, that can hold up. But really with a soft, watery custard filling like that, you need to add them after or maybe later in the second bake. Okay. So I'm sorry about that, Donna. That's frustrating. But yeah, check out that pumpkin pie video. I think it explains it. Let me get 1 1/4. My quarter cup. I got all my cups together, didn't I? Here's one. Okay. So we're going to make a homemade pie crust. I'm going to use a food processor because it's quick. But the idea is that we're taking our dry ingredients, flour, sugar, baking powder if you want, salt. You do that in the bowl of the food processor or in a bowl. Mix that up. Let's do that real quick. Yeah. I measured it out yesterday with the scale, which is nice. It's 170 grams if you're using metric. It is kind of nice to use that scale. I used to never weigh anything, but now that I need to provide metric measurements, I'm like, well, this is really easy. So I have this OXO scale, which is nice. Okay, so we'll add 1 cup. The interesting thing is that I've been making this recipe before I measured ingredients and after I measured ingredients, and it all both ways work. So I'm not like the only measuring. That's the only way to be successful. I don't believe that. Okay, now salt. You're going to add 1/4 teaspoon salt. Get this here. And then sugar. And I use 1 tablespoon sugar. You can use a teaspoon. If you're making something savory, I would definitely use a teaspoon. You can also leave it out if you like. I prefer to use 1 teaspoon. It doesn't make it sweet, but it does kind of balance a little bit of the salt and, the other flavors. So I'll just go with 1 tablespoon because I like it a little bit sweeter. And then let's give this, let's add some baking powder just for fun. I'll do 1 teaspoon. Well, I don't want to confuse everybody. I'll do 1.5, like I said. You can do anywhere from 1/2 to 1.5. It's not an exact thing. It just provides a little bit of puff to your crust. Okay, so we'll give this a quick pulse. You can walk through, John. Next, we need our cold butter. And the reason we leave it in the refrigerator is because In pie crust, what you want is cold, little pieces of butter that are cold, coated with flour. Then you roll them out, and then when the butter melts in the oven, it releases steam, which creates the flakes. So that's the idea, is that you have those cold pieces of butter. And in order to keep the butter cold, we keep it in the refrigerator. You don't want to handle it a lot. You don't want to work it too much. In addition, and I'll talk about this as we go, but you don't want to develop gluten in the crust. So a lot of things we do to avoid developing gluten, because the gluten are the tight strands that want to pull back together, or that keep it from rolling out, that keep it tough and together. So as little as we can avoid, we got to keep the butter cold, and we got to keep as little gluten development as possible. Okay, I'll grab the butter. Any other questions, Jack?
Mark asks, is the flour all-purpose?
Yes, the flour is all-purpose. I have used self-rising flour before, which is also fine. You'll just want to omit the salt, and you wouldn't want to add any additional baking powder to that.
And then Angie said, I made your apple pie recipe and it was a hit at my house.
Great! I love to hear that. I'm so happy. That's wonderful. I just love to hear y'all success stories. Failures are okay too, but the success ones, I'm just like, okay, the recipe is good. It's just, as someone who writes recipes, you're always like a little nervous, like, oh gosh, hopefully I didn't make a mistake, which I do sometimes. Okay, now we're adding the butter, and I just cut it into some pieces, adding that cold butter.
Diana just finished making apple and pumpkin pies.
Oh, I envy you. You're done. No, I'm just kidding. This is so fun. But that's great. Good job. Get a dish towel or something. Okay, so now we have our butter. That is 1/2 cup or 113 grams. It is unsalted butter. You can use salted, and then you would just omit the salt. What we're going to do is just give this a pulse. And if you were doing it with your hands, you would just be squeezing the butter, breaking it up with your hands into little pieces. You'll see it just goes a lot faster. Now, some people have been saying, oh, food processor, you're going to get a tougher crust that way. So if you, I like the way they turn out, but if you are really concerned about getting a tough crust, you might go to the hand method or the pastry cutter, because that can usually develop less gluten, is what I'm hearing at least. Okay, so we'll give us a few pulses. 6 maybe, 6 or 7. And the butter will be broken up. Be careful of the blade if you reach in there. But so there's some pieces like this size. There's some smaller pieces. There's probably some bigger ones. And that's exactly what we want here. Now this, I think, is going to answer a lot of your questions. So kind of excited to show you this. And what I want to show you is next we're going to add our water. And it's 5 tablespoons water, which equals 75 milliliters. And I never used metric until recently, so I'm just kind of learning all this. But 1 tablespoon is 15 milliliters, so 5 is 75 milliliters. Well, I have my scale here. I'm going to zero it out. And I also have this measuring cup here that has milliliters on it. And you may want to get one of these. They're not expensive, and as you'll see, it's pretty useful. So I'm setting that there.
Angie said she made your pumpkin pie, and it was great. Good. And then someone said, when I made your apple pie, I give the filling a chance to cool down.
Yeah.
Was that necessary?
Yes.
And then Tom said you can tell your daughters that, which is just one, that you have more than 2 viewers.
Right. I know. I need to tell them. Yes, I will tell them. They had more.
Oh,
my daughter has more faith in me today, I think. And my son, actually, Jack, is the other one, and he's doing all the technical work and helped me set this up. And he also helped me get a webcam, so we're going to have a better video quality and sound quality next time we do this. So that's exciting. Yay, Jack! Thank you. You have to make a little cameo. He's a great cook too. He is incredible. So he's going to have to make an appearance. Okay, here's what I want to show you. So we need 5 tablespoons water, or 75 milliliters. So I'm going to scoop up my tablespoon. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Guess what that measures? 58 milliliters. That's how wrong the tablespoon measure is. I tried with another tablespoon. Same issue, different amount. I tried with an all-clad measuring spoon, also undermeasured. So, and really what the issue is that it may not even be that this is wrong, but when you're scooping up water, it comes to different levels on the edge of it. It's not like when you're measuring dry where you can scrape it off. You know, sometimes I scoop it up and it has that dome on top. What's that from 6th grade science? Adhesion or something, where it makes a dome. I'm sure the Insecure chef knows what that's called, where sometimes you'll scoop it up and it's actually kind of like domed over. All this to say, if you're having issues with the crust being too dry after using my recipe, this is probably why. You're probably unintentionally undermeasuring. So if I say your issue is probably due to undermeasuring, I'm not saying it's your fault. I'm just saying this, and it's just not super accurate. So this is super helpful, this little measuring thing, because then you can pour in your water. And also this scale is really helpful. So look, I'm looking here and it looks like maybe I need a little more. Okay. Again, this is eyeballing it here, trying to get this accurate. But having the scale also helps if you're thinking about getting a scale. It does help weigh the water. So this is 73 milliliters. That's kind of as close as I can get it. But hopefully that answers several. I got some emails. I got some questions. They said, I made your crust exactly. I squeezed it together. I put it in the freezer. I took it out to roll it out. And why is it so dry? It's falling apart. And I think this is probably the reason the water's being slightly undermeasured.
The Insecure chef says you can use 2.5 fluid ounces.
I don't know how to do that either, but thank you.
And then Kelly is from Florida, and she just says, I finished my first ever Dutch apple pumpkin pie.
And pumpkin, following your recipes. Yeah. Oh, great, Kelly. I'm so happy to hear that. So this is 75 milliliters. It is also 5 tablespoons. So that's what we're going to use. And the thing is that pie crust is kind of inherently, even if you think if you measure exactly, sometimes it can still be a little bit different because it's dry outside or it's humid outside or it's, whatever reason. So really the key is not necessarily that you have to exactly measure everything, but you do need to know how to fix it and see the issues and then fix them. So hopefully we can look at that today. If you do see that your crust is way too crumbly, it's not holding together, then you do need to sprinkle in a little more water. So just keep that in mind. Okay, we'll add our 5 tablespoons water. I've seen some people add the water while this is, blending, and I just don't like to blend it that much. I'd much rather do a few pulses. So let's do that.
Mark asked how much sugar?
It was 1 tablespoon, which I think is 12 grams. You can use less if you prefer less sugar, or you can omit it if you don't want to eat any sugar. Like I said, the sugar does help a little bit with flavor and browning, so that's why I do recommend at least a teaspoon, but if you just absolutely don't want to eat sugar, you don't have to. Okay, so there's our crust, and this one looks plenty wet, not too dry. And there's a big piece of butter in there. It's a little bit big. This is a little bit, I would say it's a little bit bigger than an almond. And really, you don't want to go any bigger than almond with your butter pieces, because what can happen if these are in your pie crust, especially if they're on the edge, there's so much butter there when it melts, there's not going to be enough flour to absorb it. So what's going to happen is it's going to just melt down the side of the plate. So try to avoid having really, anything bigger than an almond as far as butter size. So
Karen says, will you bring back updating your recipes with measurements? It will be a lot of work.
Yes, I will definitely do that. I that's definitely on my list. And also fixing printer buttons. I don't know if y'all know, but it's just me. I don't have an assistant or anything. So I just, sometimes it takes me a while to get to things, but 100%, I would love it. It is my definite goal to get all my websites, all my recipes updated with metric and printing. And so yes, thank you. And keep asking me if I don't do it. Okay.
And then Pam is from Washington State, and she said hi.
Great. Welcome. So when I grab this, and be sure and do this after you make your crust, see how it's not falling apart. If this was too dry, it would be falling apart. If I can nudge it and it doesn't go anywhere, that's how you know this crust is going to be okay when you roll it out. If you pick it up and squeeze it and quite a bit falls off, that's too dry. So you need a little bit more water in there. Okay, let me get my press and seal.
Barbara says, good day, Marie. And Jean says, making the apple pie in the oven.
Oh, how nice. Wonderful. That's great. Y'all are ahead of things. Got your pies in the oven. Okay, I'm going to use press and seal here. I showed it yesterday. I flip it over so the sticky side is up. It's like saran wrap. You can use saran wrap if you prefer. I just find this is a little easier to work with.
Someone asked, do you have a cookbook? If not, please.
I know. So I do have a cookbook. It's called Cooking with Marie on Any Occasion, and it's from 2008. And that's the reason I don't still recommend it, is because in 2008, I was in my 20s and did not know what I was doing. So here it is. This is my cookbook, and it still has some great recipes, but a lot on my, can you tell it's me? Wait, how do you like this? A lot of the recipes, I don't feel super proud of them. And so I don't push this cookbook a lot, but right now it's just my website is the best place to get my current updated recipes. But it is definitely 100% my goal and hope and dream to do another cookbook with better recipes that I love. And what in this day and age, the way to be able to write a cookbook usually is you have to show you have a big following of people that would buy it. So that's why I'm always so grateful for y'all. You're getting me closer to that goal. And if I can build up my website, my YouTube channel even more, there's more likelihood that a publisher would want to work for me. So that's just like the reality of cookbooks today is just like, if you want to work with a publisher, you have to show that people are going to want to buy it. So
Angie says, I made your pie crust today. Following your recipe, it was the first time I made a lattice pie. I knew how you made it so easy. Yeah. I never knew how you made it so easy. And then Larry says, I want to say hello to you, Marie. I love your videos. Question: Should it take to roll out a pie dough is 15 minutes, or what are the consequences behind it?
How long should it take to roll out a pie dough? Is 15 minutes too long? Oh, and what are the consequences behind it? Okay, let me get this in the fridge and then I'll answer that. So with a food processor, all you have to do is this. And then this we wrap up in our press and seal. You just bring the edges together. Something I've been doing lately too is just kind of press it together, just to make sure we don't have any dry spots. If you do this and you see that one corner is just like really dry, I think we had that issue yesterday. It looked pretty dry. Get a little water on your fingers and drizzle it right on there, and then you'll solve that dry spot before it even goes in the fridge. So just do this. Mine's coming together real nicely. It looks great. I forgot I was going to use a little bit of vodka in it, but what are you going to do next time, right? Okay, so then you twist this and kind of shape it into a round disc. And the reason we shape it now is because it's going to make it easier to keep it round when we go to roll it out. So take a second and make a nice little disc. And then this goes in the refrigerator refrigerator for 2 to 3 days. It goes in the freezer for 2 to 3 months. So popping this in the fridge. And the reason we refrigerate it is really 2 reasons. One is to let the butter harden, because you remember you want those little pieces of butter nice and cold and in little pieces, so when they roll out and bake, they create flakes. If, for example, you had the butter so combined into the flour, it was like cookie dough where you can't see the little pieces of butter, you're not going to have any flakes. So if you can think about that in your mind, that might help you picture it. But you need little pieces of butter in there, not bigger than an almond, though. And the other reason we refrigerate it is because we need to let the gluten rest. The gluten, again, is that when you mix flour and water, it creates a structure of coils. And when you work the dough, like we were kind of doing, you're working with it, it's going to strengthen them. And so we're putting it in the refrigerator to relax them. It'll be easier to roll out and less likely to pull in when it's baking. So that's what we're doing now.
Karen said she made your pie crust and it came out like a success. And someone said, can you use this crust for chicken pot pie?
Yes, I get that question so often. 100%. This is a crust for chicken pot pie. You can reduce the sugar to a teaspoon or less. And I am going to put together a recipe for chicken pot pie because I've had that question from so many people. So that is definitely on top of my list. But yes, you can use it. And let me get back to Larry's quick question about rolling out a pie crust. I would say 15 minutes is fine. If you take a lot longer and you leave your crust out, it's going to be warming up, which can soften the butter, make it harder to work with. It can get really sticky if it gets, too warm. So those are reasons to be kind of quick about it. And if it starts to get sticky or too warm, if you have space, you can put it on a baking sheet or carry it over and put it in your refrigerator. Some people do that. They chill their hands in, cold water while they're working with it.
Kelly says she loves the saran wrap on the countertop for the no best.
Oh, isn't that the best?
Kelly says, I'm baking the pie a day ahead. What's the best way to reheat it tomorrow?
Which kind of pie is it? Hey, Jack, you want to turn the AC, a little bit of AC on?
Sure.
It's actually 80-something degrees here in Texas in late November. So, okay.
Someone said, I made your apple pie and it was terrific. However, my leaves around the perimeter lost their definition, even though I covered the leaves with aluminum foil for the first part of the baking.
Mm-hmm. So the leaves on the edges lose definition. And someone else asked this question. I think it was another Kelly asked it about shrinking pie crust and also things losing their shape. And main reason for to prevent the leaves from losing their shape, I like to freeze them. I have a bunch in the freezer right now, and if they're cold and you put it in a hot oven, it kind of sears them into shape. They're not, if you put them warm into the oven, they're more likely to just kind of melt. So I would freeze the decorations before you cut them out, put them in the freezer, and then put them on and try to keep it all very cold. You can also put the whole thing in the refrigerator freezer before you put it in the oven, just to make everything cold again. That's going to help things hold their shape. Sometimes I will say that with butter crust, some things will lose their shape a little, partly because it's so flaky, and so I've seen that happen too. So don't be discouraged, though. It's going to be so good. If it's an all butter crust, people are going to love it.
Kelly's saying the pie she wants to reheat is pumpkin and Dutch apple.
Okay, let me grab one crust out real quick.
And someone asked, after putting the crust in the press and seal wrap, can I freeze it and use it later?
Yes, that is a definite make ahead tip. When you put the crust in a dish, put it in the freezer. You can put the date on it. Leave it in the freezer for 2 to 3 months, And whenever you want to use it, you just pull it out. You can thaw it in the refrigerator overnight, or you can thaw it on your counter in about an hour or so. And then you can roll it out and use it. And you can also roll it out, put it in a pie plate, and then freeze that if you like. So then you have an already rolled out pie crust in your pie plate, ready to just pull out and use, which I think is the most convenient. So I have a stack of them in there right now, and I can just grab them when I need one, which absolutely makes no sense as to why I'm making more right now. That's what happens. I put them in there, and then I don't end up using them because I keep making more. There was another question. Reheating pumpkin pie. I would just do a low temperature in the oven, maybe 300, 250 for, right before serving for maybe 10 minutes. You don't want to really overcook pumpkin because it can crack if it gets overcooked. So just be like a low oven, I think would be my, and this same for Dutch apple. I would do a low oven if it seems to be, if the top crust is definitely cooked enough, just a little bit before serving would be my suggestion. But that's a good question. I remember my mom always wanted warm pie on Thanksgiving. So we always had pies cooking towards the end of eating. Okay. Did I get all of them, Jack? Putting the crust, yes. Freeze it for later use, yes. Baking a pie day ahead. Oh, to reheat. Okay, we talked about that. Okay, great. Thank you. So this is one I got out of the refrigerator. It's been in there. And somebody did ask me earlier today. I got it out of the refrigerator, and it was so hard I couldn't roll it. And yes, that will happen. It's not rock hard. It's starting to soften up just as I stand here and hold it. As I always used to say in all my pie crust classes, I would say, remember your hands are 98.6 degrees. I mean, that is not cold. That is very warm. So we are warming the set fast as we just hold it. But yes, let it warm up still it sit on your counter for 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, just so it has a little more pliability. And of course, not so much that it's sticky, but enough that you can roll it out. There's always kind of like, it may take you a few times to kind of get your own method and figure out what works in your kitchen and your environment, depending on how warm it is or how cold it is. But here's a pie crust we can roll out. I made it yesterday. Let me grab some flour. We always want to have a little flour nearby. Did I miss any? No, we're good. Okay. Okay, cool. Great. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Thanks for so much, all of you, for joining. And this is so fun. Cooking classes it just gives me life. And so I'm so grateful for y'all. And then we're able to do this here in a live cooking class setting because it's so much. It's like we're not totally interacting, but we're sort of interacting. So keep sending questions and let's pretend like we're all in the same room together. Okay, so what I'm doing now is just pressing out the dough with my hands. What this is doing is warming up the edge a little bit because the edges tend to be the drier areas. And so I find if they're a little bit warmer, they're usually easier to work with. But just press it out. It's still very nice and cold, and we're not kneading it or anything. We're just kind of pressing it out and at the same time making it a little bit easier to work with by warming it up. Okay, feels about right. Still feels pretty cold, but we can roll this out. So first what we'll do is get a little flour, and you can do this on your counter, or this mat is what I've been using lately. And you don't want to use a lot of flour. Somebody commented that on one of my old videos. They were like, oh, too much flour. And the reason, of course, is you don't want this to absorb a lot more flour because then it's completely throw your measurements off. So I guess that's something to keep in mind too. Don't throw a lot of flour on your crust while you're rolling it out. Just enough to prevent it from sticking to all the things.
Sharon says turning the dough a quarter turn when you roll it is a game changer.
Great. I'm so happy to hear that. I had another question from somebody about lopsided crusts. And so the question that Sharon asked yesterday, and I'll demonstrate again today. When you're rolling out a pie crust, you always want to, so you give it a couple rolls and then you turn it 1/4 turn. roll it a couple turns, roll it turn it 1/4 turn,
And then
roll
Roy said I
and
have,
turn.
Roy said I have a convection oven and a regular oven. Which one would you say is better for baking the pie crust?
I would say regular oven. Convection is so hot. I'm worried it may burn your crust, depending on what you're making for the filling. Also, convection is a lot hotter, and so it's just going to throw off whatever recipe you're using. So I would definitely use regular oven. Yes. So back to the turning. The reason we turn it is for 2 reasons. One is to try to keep it in the round shape, which makes it a lot easier when you're going to put it in your pie crust. If you have like a crazy shaped pie crust, it's not going to fit in a round pie plate. So roll and turn. The other reason we do it is because you don't want your pie crust to stick to your counter. And I've seen so many times in pie crust classes, people will just be like rolling away. And then I say, don't forget to turn it. And they go to turn it and it's totally stuck to the counter. And at that point, you really have to like scrape it up, bring it back into a ball and start over. So you really don't want your crust sticking to your counter. So use the roll and turn method. Am I missing anything, Jack?
No.
Okay, Sharon says it's a game changer. Good. And this is really looking great. It's you can see all those nice pieces of butter in there. And those are going to give you the flakes and of course also that great butter flavor. So whenever you see store-bought crusts, generally any that I've seen do not have visible pieces of butter. So that's they might be flaky for other reasons, but it's not the little pieces of butter in there. And I did have several questions about ratios of using lard or shortening or Crisco, and I don't bake with any of those very much, so I'm not an expert. If any of you, I think the question was, can I use my all butter recipe but use half lard and half shortening? Is it a 1-for-1 substitution with lard? I'm just not sure. I don't use it often at all. So I haven't tried it with this recipe. I'm wondering if anyone has. Did they use half lard or half shortening in place of half the butter in this recipe? Anyone by chance? I thought for sure somebody in the community would know the answer.
Someone asked, hi Marie, sorry if this has been asked before, but would you prefer a metal pie plate or a glass one?
So I use glass for all mine. I use Pyrex really for pretty much all my pies. I do have a metal pie plate that was my mom's that I don't use because it doesn't. I really like a pie plate that has a lip on it, and I like a pie plate that is about 9 inches and it's not too deep. I feel like it just fits most recipes. If you have a deeper dish or a wider plate, that can be harder to kind of fit to, as I know Sharon, I was emailing with later, she has a 10-inch pie plate, so we're talking about adjusting for that. That's the kind of pie plate that I do like, I'll just say that. So I don't use metal. If you do use metal, do not use a non-stick. I know they make those non-stick plates. I would not use that. Other basic metal pie plate would be fine. I don't have any. Otherwise, I would probably use one. I may have some actually. I'll try it. I know people say, oh, with the metal bottom, it retains heat more and gives you a crisper bottom crust. And as I mentioned, I don't really have a test kitchen, so I haven't tested every variation of this crust in different pie plates. Although I would love to. I would love to have that information for all of y'all. But I just haven't, so I can't say for certain. But I think you should be fine with either. Also, like ceramic pie plates are fine too. They tend to be big, or mine are bigger. Yeah.
Christy says she uses a recipe that's half butter, half lard, and it comes out a little bit flakier, but
okay,
she likes all butter more.
Okay. Well, that's so helpful to know because I was going to try to get some leaf lard. They say to use is really good for flakies, but if you say you like the butter, well, then maybe I won't really pursue that right now, at least. So hopefully I can't remember who asked that question earlier, but hopefully that answers your question. It sounds like you can use half butter and half lard, and it may be flakier, but you might like all butter better, like Christy. Okay, now let's put it into our pie plate real quick. To measure. We need to measure to make sure it fits our pie plate. A lot of recipes will tell you to like do it to 12 inches across. And I'm like, I don't think everybody has a ruler in their kitchen. I do, but I don't think everybody does. So this is how I measure. You just set the pie plate on top, and there's about an inch all around. I like to have more like 2 inches, so I'm going to roll it just a tiny bit more. Just give it a few rolls outward. And that looks good. See how there's a little, I don't know if you can see, but there's a little more to give us a good edge and make sure it fits on the lip all the way down, all the way across, so like that. Okay, now I just fold this in half and then pick it up, put it right in the center of the pie plate, the fold right in the center, like that. And then you just unfold this. And you're just going to set it into the pie plate, set it in there, set it in. If you pull it down, it's going to want to pull back together. So you want to carefully set it in there. And the person or people who have asked about shrinking pie crust, that can be a reason. If you are stretching it into your pie crust or stretching it out, it's going to want to pull back together. So be very careful just to set it into place. You know what's cool about pie crust, I think, is if you can make a pie crust, you probably remember who taught you. Is that true, or is that just me making it? But I feel like it's like a personal thing that we have to pass on. We have to pass on to our future generations, and like somebody taught you. Like my mom taught me, and she learned from Julia Child. It was on TV, but that's where she learned. And then she taught me. And then all of you, if you're learning, you'll remember, oh, I learned from Marie say that. So I just think that's really special, because then maybe you'll tell your grandkids, this is who I learned from. And I just, not everything's like that. Not everything's like that. Like reading, it's not you don't really remember. It's not something you learn from someone. Okay, I'll stop. Go ahead.
Bonnie asks, can you use a ceramic pie plate?
Yes, you can. I have some ceramic pie plates that I do use. Some are quite a bit bigger in like a deep dish. If you are using one that is a deep dish, you just need to take precaution, because this pie crust might not fit it. You may have to do 1.5 of these crusts. And you may need to increase your filling if you're using my recipes, which are made for a 9-inch pie plate. It will, I'll just say that. But sometimes it's ceramic, you can use it, but sometimes they're bigger or deeper. That's at least how mine are. Mm-hmm.
And then Donna asks, would you use the same crust for a pot pie or a quiche?
Definitely. Same crust, and both of those are on my to-do list. I want to get those. Really want to do a quiche and a chicken pot pie. So hopefully maybe we can do that after the holidays when it's real cold in the winter. That would be good, right? Now, if you get to what I'm doing here is I'm just folding the pie crust under itself and resting it on the lip of the pie plate. So here you can see I'm taking this excess crust. I didn't cut it off. I don't like to cut off the crust. I like to use all of it. We're a zero waste pie crust. I don't know why I sounded like Kim Kardashian just then, but don't cut it off. We just use it to make a nice, fat, decorative edge. I think it's really beautiful. And folding it under itself like this also helps create more flakes on this edge. When you cut into it, you'll just see like a roll of flakes, and it's really impressive for the guests. Now, this is a place where we have kind of a long piece, and it seems like it might be too much. What you can do if you do get to that kind of situation, you can pull off a little, and then just so you don't have too much. So pull off a little if it seems like too much. And then if you happen to have a place that it just doesn't quite have enough, you can patch this in. So you can fix it so it's all kind of fairly even. Okay, that looks good. I'm just kind of flattening it out, adjusting, making sure the edge is even, everything's kind of pressed into place. And there we have a beautiful all butter homemade pie crust.
Angie asks, would the measurements be the same for a 10-inch pie plate? My mom never baked, and I watched so many videos, but yours has worked the best for me.
I'm so glad. I'm so thrilled. You all know I'm completely self-taught, so I'm a little bit intimidated by all those, baking experts. But so I'm glad that mine are working for you. That's wonderful. So the 10-inch pie plate is going to be pretty big. It's quite a bit bigger, and I'm guessing it's probably more like 1.5, hopefully not 2 inches deep. That's pretty deep. So what we can do in a little bit is I have 1.5 crust made. I can roll that out and we can put it in my biggest pie plate and see. I think 1.5 crust might be better if you're wanting a nice thick edge and everything. I think this crust on a 10-inch pie plate that's fairly deep might be a little bit skimpy. So hopefully, I wish I had the recipe for 10-inch prepared already, but I've just started getting that question. So I'll have to get on that though. Now let's, actually we're making this an apple pie, so we do not need to create the fluted edge. Usually at this point, I would use my 2 fingers and my thumb and go all the way around and make those, little fluted scalloped edge. But we don't need to for apple pie right now, because what we're going to do is add our apple pie filling, then add the crust and add that to this, and then do the decorative edge. So you don't need to do it at this stage. What I'm going to do now is saran wrap, press and seal, whatever, and then this goes in the freezer. And as I mentioned earlier, great mega head tip. This can stay in the freezer for 2 to 3 months. Then you just pull it out, add your filling, and you go from there. But it's a great make ahead tip. And I'm going to pop this in the freezer real quick so it starts, because it needs to be really cold. You don't want to move straight to filling at this point because your crust is so warm. And if you're having like a soggy bottom crust, that can be part of the problem, is because your crust is already so warm. When you add this liquid to it, it's going to turn into this kind of mushy mess that you can't fix, even no matter where. If you put it at the bottom third and use a metal pie pan and keep it at a high heat, you can't fix that once it's become kind of this warm crust with a filling on top and becomes a soggy mess. So freezer right now, I'll put it in. I'll be right back.
Fred asks, my mother, or not asks, but said, my mother's a tremendous pie baker, but I never had an interest in learning until she passed, and I'm finally learning from you.
So that makes me so happy. I lost my mom 3 years ago, and I definitely have that experience a lot. I'm like, oh, I wish I'd asked her about this. I wish I'd asked her about that, sometimes we do have to find other people to learn these things from, but I guess we still kind of know how special they are. Those, like making pies, we appreciate how special it is when we can't learn it anymore. So anyway, I'm so glad that I can be your teacher.
Diane is asking, sorry if this has been asked before, but can I refrigerate an unbaked pie overnight and bake it in the morning? Can I freeze the pie in just a glass pan and bake in the morning, or just bake today and reheat?
So I assume it's apple pie, because you definitely wouldn't want to do that with pecan or pumpkin. Pecan or pumpkin, you need to, once you assemble it, you've got to bake it. And those are great to make ahead. You can warm them up a little bit in the next day if you want, but those are, I'm going to make pecan and pumpkin today and serve tomorrow. Is it apple?
Yes.
Okay, so apple. If you assemble the apple pie today, I think it's great to bake it today. For one thing, it's going to reduce some stress because you've got it done and you've got some more refrigerator space. but also it gives a chance for the apples to kind of settle, which can be nice. So that overnight is actually letting it sit overnight is actually can be a good thing. If you want to bake it tomorrow, then I would freeze it fully assembled, wrap it in plastic, put it in the freezer. Then you take it out, let it sit on the counter for 10 minutes or so. Don't thaw it, just sit on the counter for 10 minutes and bake from frozen using my instructions, but you may need to add maybe 10 minutes to the bake time. You just want to make sure, this is key for apple pie, you know it's done when the filling is bubbling. So you want it to be bubbling. That's when you know, and check the apples for doneness, but when the filling is bubbling. So
And then Sandra asked,
wait, let me just finish. That was the question on if you want to make a pie today and bake it tomorrow. It's an apple pie. Wrap in saran wrap, put in the freezer, take it out the next day, let sit on the counter for 10 minutes, and then bake from frozen.
and then Sandra asked, what's the name of the pie plate brand?
I use Pyrex. That's what I use. All my they cost about maybe $8 or $9. I have tons, and they're just great. And I like that they have that lip around the edge. I like the size. They're just kind of tried and true. And you know, some pie plates have like these decorative edges. I like to make my own. So a lot of reasons I do like that
And then
Pyrex pie crust.
Billy is from Pismo Beach, California. and
Hi,
says
Billy. Hi, Billy. Welcome.
And then Tom is asking me about your YouTube plaque.
Oh, what's the question? You want to see it?
I'm just wondering where it is.
Oh, wait, we don't have it. Go get it, Jack. Let's put it. Should we put it in the background?
He was wondering why isn't it framed above the window?
That's a good question. But okay, I should do that. The problem is that my whole family lives here, so I guess it's fine, right? We can hang it. We'll hang it for when we're on the shows. I mean, it's not like anyone would be embarrassed about it.
Just
Anyway, okay, we'll go on. Great
Maybe
idea.
like by the coffee.
Yes, that's right. Okay, great idea, Tom. Well, I'll have to leave space for when I get to the million. Fingers crossed. That would be so awesome. So we've made our pie crust. We rolled it out. We put it in the pie plate. We're freezing it. And now let's talk briefly about the apple filling.
wait.
Mhm.
Someone's asking, does altitude make a difference when baking cakes and pies?
Probably. I don't have a lot of experience with it, so I don't know how to adjust the temperatures for baking pies. If anyone knows, from 415 degrees and 375 degrees for apple pie, would you change that for a higher altitude? I'm sorry, I'm just not sure. We don't get out much, and Texas is very low altitude. Okay, any other questions before we move on to the filling? Okay,
Unless anybody asks them.
I just want to, it's hard to make sure I covered everything. We're going to just briefly go over the filling. I do have 2 videos on this. I have a apple pie tutorial, and then I have an apple pie filling tutorial, and those both explain this. But I just want to briefly kind of talk about what we do, because it will help with, you know, the apple pie overall. What I do is I pre-cook the apples, and the reason I do that is for 2 reasons. One, if you do not pre-cook your apples and you pile them up in your pie crust, add your crust on top, and then put that in the oven, what happens is the crust stays in place and all the apples shrink down because they have so much liquid in them. And so they all shrink down. And then when you go to cut it, it's not going to be this big, but there's going to be like a gap between the crust and your apples. It's called the crust gap in pie crust circles. So it's just not as pretty, you know, when you go to cut in and there's like a hole in the apple pie. And I don't do this necessarily for that reason, but it does solve that problem. Pre-cooking your apples does. So I do like that it solves that problem. The other reason we pre-cook the apples is because I use Granny Smith apples, and they are very firm. And if you bake them without pre-cooking them, it can take a lot longer to get the apples soft enough. So what will often happen is you bake your pie, and then the crust is all done and beautiful and golden brown, and then you test it with a toothpick and the apples are still crunchy. And this is another thing from my mom. She insisted she would not have crunchy apples in her pie. And I so appreciate that because I can teach. Nobody wants a crunchy apple pie. Maybe like a little bite, but not crunchy. You know, you need to be able to cut into it. So baking the apples ahead can solve that problem. Cooking the apples ahead on the stovetop can solve that problem. So what we do is we'll peel the apples, and I'll just demonstrate.
Really quick, with the apple peeler.
Yes.
Jean says she wants to get the apple peeler thing, and Dorothy can't find it.
Yes. Okay. So the apple peeler, I don't know how to add links to a live video, but I can put it like as if you email me, yes, I will send you the link. So, and also if you look at my apple pie filling video, I have it linked there in YouTube. So you can just click on it and it'll take you straight there. I found it at Target. Unless it's out of stock now, it should be at Target. So
Jean says Target online only.
okay, there we go. Target online only. So the brand is, what you want to Google is, it's PL and the number 8. I don't know if you can see it. It's kind of a weird name, but it's PL and the number 8, like plate. And then the brand is Progressive International. And it's the apple peeler core slicer. Don't get the spiralizer. It looks very similar, so don't accidentally get that. But yes, Target online, I believe, has them.
And then Angie said, I agree with Barbara Marie's techniques have worked well for me, not difficult. I love the crust that she doesn't trim the sides. I love pie crust, and so does my husband.
Oh, that's great. Wonderful. Thank you so much for that note. So the way this works, and this is my favorite apple peeler, I demonstrated, I think, yesterday. So what you do is you take your apple. My daughter's going to help me peel some here in a minute. By the way, if you have kids or grandkids, they will love this machine. Do be careful because this is sharp and this can be sharp, but kids can definitely use it. At least mine did. So you just press the apple on like that. And this just takes all the work out of the cutting, peeling, coring, and slicing. So what you do is you just the best way to show you this. There you go. So you just roll the apple like this. And there you have a peeled, cored, and sliced apple. And then for apple pie, all you have to do is take your knife and cut down like that. And you have really, really nice apple slices that are cored and peeled. It just takes all the effort. You can use a food processor also to peel your apples. You do have to, not peel. You can use it to slice. So that can help, but this is really much better. You want to, okay, here comes my daughter, Elaine. She's going to peel some apples for us, and I'll start putting the dry filling together.
And then Diana says, I've been using the apple peeler, core, and slicer, and it's a game changer.
Right? Who said it? Is it
Diana.
Diana. How do you get it off?
Yeah.
So the way I do that is press this down and pull this back, and it kind of shoots it off. There we go. See? Fun. Okay. And I need you to scoot over a little bit to that direction. Yeah, there we go. Let me see if we can both fit here.
It's juicy.
Okay, here's this.
Christine says, hello, daughter.
And I just want to thank Jack again, my sweet helper. He's like, Mom, today, less distractions. Stay on task. Keep moving. If you're talking, be doing so. So I'm just so grateful. I don't know what I'm doing.
And then Sandra says, can I reheat my apple pie the next day? If so, what temperature should I do? Thank you.
So, yes, a lot of people have been asking that. I would do maybe like 300 for 20 minutes. I should know that, but I don't. I usually just put it in a warm oven until it seems kind of warm. So I would say maybe like 300 for probably 20 minutes is probably good. If your crust is really, really brown, you might tint some foil on top just to prevent it from getting any browner.
And then,
But hopefully that helps on
Sharon
reheating.
asks, when I use the apple slicer and peeler, is there when I use the apple slicer, is there, if there's a little peel left, is that okay to put the pie?
Oh yes, I think it's fine. I don't worry about it too much. Sometimes I'll, take that piece off, but I think a little's fine. as long as it's not, so thick it's going to be hard to eat. But yeah, I think it's fine.
Got it.
Okay. You want to put that in here? I want to make it so everybody can see. Okay, and I'll start putting the dry ingredients together just to give you a quick demonstration of that. Is that going to be helpful to people to see the apple pie? I said I would demonstrate the filling. I just want to make sure I'm doing something that's helpful to y'all at this point in the Thanksgiving chaos.
We break them in half.
Cut them in half.
Okay.
Knife, here you go. You can cut it right on there is fine. And then just toss it in there. Okay. Well, we'll do it real quick. Oh, and I did print out my own recipe, which you guys can do too. And then if you punch holes in them, you can make your own. I know it's a little bit of a hassle, but you can make your own Marie's Kitchen Cookbook. I always talk about that at the end of my shows, but that really is my goal for y'all, is to be able to print out the recipes. You can write on them if you want, make a little like, oh, I don't want the cinnamon, make your changes. And then you'll have it really to pass on to, your kids or grandkids and say, these are the recipes we've been using with the changes. And I think it's special. So,
And also the website is ad-free.
Also, yes, the website right now is ad-free, and I've been getting actually a lot of requests for ads on the website, and I really do want to keep it ad-free. I don't like going to websites that have pop-ups and ads everywhere. So anyway, just to help support that, if you would like to become a member of my YouTube channel, we have memberships now. You can be a neighbor, friend, or family, and we can cook together. And so as a neighbor, it's $2.99 a month, and you will help support this channel and help it grow. You'll also help keep my website ad-free, and you also get special emojis and a loyalty badge that I can see when it comes up, especially in the chat. So thank you to those that have already joined. It's so wonderful to have your support. The next one, real quick, is Friends. Friends is $9.99 a month, and you get early access to videos, and you get why can't I remember the other one? You also get loyalty badges that I can see and see how long you've been a member. You also get special emojis that I made. One is my dog, so you get to use my dog emoji. It's exciting. When they said to create an emoji that your viewers might like to use, I was like, a dog, because in all my videos, really the most commented on thing is the dog. So.
And then
then real quick, there's family. If you're family, we get to do members only live streams. So it'll be like this, but probably smaller groups. And also you'll get members only video. Oh yeah, you get early access to video as friends. You also get that as family. You get loyalty badges, emojis, early access to videos, members only live streams. So if you'd like to support my channel in that way, or you can also donate, right? Or contribute. I don't know how it works, but I hear that you can donate a little bit. And if you like, it would be helpful to help us continue to grow this channel. Anyway, back to, so I have my apple pie recipe.
quick, Gloria asked, Marie, should you egg wash the apple pie and then freeze it for 20 minutes, or should you just egg wash before and bake?
Egg wash before. So freeze, take out, egg wash, then bake. So don't freeze the egg wash. Also, if you do like this video or you like my channel, the other way, if you can't financially support, if you can just liking and subscribing and sharing to your Facebook group or your Reddit group or your book club, that is such a meaningful way to support too. And I appreciate all of it. Thank you. Okay, so the apple pie filling, and I did get my recipe out because I do have to look at it. I don't have this memorized. I know that sounds weird, but that would be too many recipes in my head. So here we are.
All the apples?
I don't know, how many did you do? Do you keep count?
You might have to watch this back.
You just look at the if you forget how many apples you've done, you just look for, you did?
Yeah.
Okay, look for these and you'll know.
4.
I do that with eggs too, the shells.
So how many do we need?
Well, it's 3 pounds, but I actually have some already pre-prepared, so we don't have to prepare a whole thing if we don't want to. Okay, so then we're going to get 3/4 cup brown sugar. Can you hand me that 3/4 cup? And this apple pie filling is.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Disaster.
I don't know. You know what I love too, and I can give you a link to this, but it is the 3/4 cup measuring cup. It is hard to find these days. There's a lot of measuring sets that will send you like 4 measuring cups. They don't have the 3/4, and I just like to have the 3/4 because I use it in recipes, and I feel like I get a better measurement when I just do the 3/4 instead of having to split it up. So there's our brown sugar. I really do love this set. There's so many. There's like a 1/8 cup, a 1/3 cup, a 2/3 cup, a 3/4 cup. Only problem is that the numbers are written on there, you know, kind of put on there, and they're a little bit hard to see. Especially if your eyes are starting to fail you. Okay, brown sugar. And the great thing about this recipe, and this is another influence from my mom, is that it is not too sweet. She did not want a overly sweet. You want to taste the apples. You don't want to taste just like sweet sugar syrup. At least that's what we always wanted. So if you look at some recipes, they will use 3 pounds of apples and like 1.5 cups sugar. That is a lot of sugar. We only use 3/4 cup. So if you don't want it too sweet, I think this is a good one for you. Did I get any? We did. I washed. Okay. Lots of what?
Advertisements.
Oh, lots of advertisements. Oh, are you saying on the YouTube channel? There are advertisements on the YouTube channel. If you don't have YouTube Premium, there are ads, and I mean, that's the only way for me to earn money on this channel. So unfortunately, I can't really take those off. But I know that's annoying too. If you get YouTube Premium, it has no ads. That's what we do. And they're usually the worst ads. I gotta say, I'm not thrilled with the ads that they put on. And again, I don't have any control over that, but oh my gosh, the amount of pharmaceutical ads. Whew, at least that's the ones that I'm getting. Maybe it's just me. Okay. So now we've done brown sugar and 1/4 cup all-purpose flour. You can use cornstarch. Yeah, it'd be fine. You can use cornstarch if you prefer. You can use more like 2 tablespoons if you're using cornstarch. You just need some sort of thickener to thicken that juice a little bit. This will help prevent the soggy bottom crust in a really, really soupy pie. I use a little bit of flour.
Angie said my mom was the best cook. I learned a lot from her. Cooking made a lot of tamales and flour tortillas and all kinds of good recipes. I live in Texas, or I'm from Texas, but I now live in Indiana.
Oh my gosh. Flour tortillas, tamales. I would give anything to be able to make homemade flour tortillas and tamales. I'm going to have to get a lesson from someone.
I think Dad tried to one time.
Flour tortillas?
They're not good.
Oh my. Let's just say my husband's not really a chef. Doesn't really know his way around the kitchen. Okay. But that's okay. That's why we're a good couple. His dad said when we were dating and decided to get married, he said, well, isn't that funny that a guy who loves to eat likes a girl who loves to cook? So it works out. He really loves my cooking, and that always makes me feel good. So I think it does help our relationship. Okay. Now, and sadly, I don't know if you were keeping up. I know some of you were. My father-in-law did pass away in October to pancreatic cancer. So we are thinking about him this Thanksgiving, and John is going to learn to do the turkey. He's going to learn from my dad. So we're really excited. He's going to try to take over that duty. We'll see how that goes. It's going to be funny because my dad is a little bit kind of fussy in the kitchen and wants to do it his way. So it's going to be interesting to see my husband kind of try to roll with that. We'll see. My husband is not fussy in that way. Okay, I added 1/2 teaspoon ground cinnamon. You can use more. I've used up to a tablespoon and it's delicious. It's just much more spiced. You can also use less. I've seen recipes with 1/8 teaspoon. So it's just real apples forward. You can do that if you want. Now I'm doing a pinch of ground nutmeg. It's fine. Any other questions? Oh, beautiful daughter, just like her mama. Oh, sweet girl. Thanks for your help. Remembering that.
Christy says sorry for your loss.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. It's just, it's a reality. And especially around the holidays, it's you think you kind of feel the loss a little more. But so I just tell people and tell myself, just be kind to yourself. That's a lot for your body to process. So take a nap. My son's laughing because I love a nap. Okay. We did our brown sugar, flour, salt, cinnamon, nutmeg. Okay. That's all the dry ingredients. Then what we would do, we have only like 4 cups apple here, but you need more like 9 cups. And if you have a bigger pie plate, go even more on the apples. You'll need more. Oh, and you can mix in other apples. I'm using Granny Smith, but I really do like to mix in other varieties. A sweeter apple, because the Granny Smith is really tart. So I would often mix in an Envy, Braeburn, Honeycrisp, Cosmic Crisp. I mean, there's lots that you can mix in, and that will kind of improve the flavor, the texture. Having that variation really makes the pie a little bit more interesting. So feel free to mix it up. But I do use Granny Smith. Not everyone does. Trust me. Some people use other apples and swear by them, and that's awesome. Feel free to, as we say, do your thing. Don't say that. Okay. So you can just toss your apples with the dry ingredients. Let me wash my hands real quick. And although it is tempting to just grab some of those apples and snack on them, you don't want to eat the flour raw. There's a big thing about that now. Cook it before you snack on it because it can be, salmonella or something. Okay, next we need our real quick, I'll do our 1 tablespoon lemon juice. And I think somebody asked me, well, could you leave that out since you're using tart apples? And you definitely can. You can leave out lemon juice if you like. I think it's still nice in there. Then I use a teaspoon of vanilla extract. There we go. And I don't know that do we add our salt? Does anybody remember me adding salt to this?
Bonnie just asked, did you put salt in the filling mixer?
Oh, thank you, Bonnie. You're right. Why do I skip over that? I think that's happened in a prior video. Add some salt. It's a 1/2 teaspoon salt. I'm going to do 2 of these. Okay. So yes, you should add salt to that. Let me grab it.
With a spoon.
And we'll do the decorations in a little bit, so maybe you can come back for that, girl. Okay, so we'll toss those together. Of course, you'd have more apples. Then it's 1/4 cup water. And if you're using a much juicier apple than the Granny Smith, you might not need it, but it kind of cooks off anyway when we pre-cook them. So I do a 1/4 cup apple. I feel like it just helps everything kind of mix together a little bit easier. Otherwise, it can be really dry at first. So that helps it mix together. Oh, and then so after this is cooked for about 20 minutes on the stove and it's not soft, but tender, you're going to want to add 1/4 cup butter. And I always forget that. It used to be I would add the butter after all the apples were in the pie plate, put in like little cubes of it, and I always would forget it. So I'd have to like sneak it in. So don't forget the butter. We're going to put this over on the stove and let it cook and kind of soften. And then you add your butter when it's done. Stir that in. and then we cool it completely. You do not ever want to use a warm filling, put that into a raw crust. Putting a warm filling into a raw crust will melt the bottom crust and you'll have a soggy bottom and there's no way to fix it. So
Bonnie asked, how many apples?
So 3 pounds, it's really going to depend on the size of your apples. This is a 3-pound bag, and I think it probably had like 15 little tiny apples, maybe 12. If you use the bigger Granny Smith apples or the other apples, you may only need 8 or 9. But I would probably buy, say, 10 of the large apples. Depending on your pie plate. If you have a small one like me, then 8 to 9 should be fine. But if you have a little bit bigger plate, you may need more. And you don't want to have not enough apple filling. You don't, because what that can do is it kind of like sinks down. So you want to make sure you can at least build it up to the edge, maybe a little higher even. So I would overbuy on apples to make sure you have enough. Okay, so any other questions on the apple filling? I'm going to grab it out of the refrigerator real quick. So that just cooks on the stove for, I believe it's like 20 minutes. And you do need to stir it because there's not a lot of liquid in there. And so it can burn on the bottom. So it's just, keep an eye on it. Okay, so we'll grab our apple filling. No, we need to roll out one more crust. Let me grab that. Oh, shoot. I guess we'll wait a second. This one's nice. Okay. This one I made earlier, and it says I always write down what I put in it because I can't remember, which is which. And this one has vodka and baking powder in it. So we'll use that for the top crust. It'll be real flaky on top. It'll be really pretty, puffy and flaky. This will be a fun combination. So let me let this warm up for a second. Make some space here real quick. How long has it been going?
81 minutes.
Oh my goodness, an hour and a half. Thank you all for coming and hanging around. I know it's hanging in there, I should say. That's a long video, but it's nice to see somebody do an apple pie from start to finish because, usually in my videos I have to edit or speed up something. And so this is it's just nice to see. Hopefully, that's the idea. Okay, let me warm this crust up just a little bit. I wouldn't say it's real hard. It's got some pliability to it, so I'm not worried about rolling it out. And this is going to be the top crust that we use. Trying to think about if we should fill the crust first. I think we'll be fine. Okay, yeah. So this is going to be the top crust, and in my Secret to the Best Apple Pie tutorial, I do have where you can cut out lattice, and I show how to do that and how to put the lattice on. I thought for this video, because I've already demonstrated the lattice before, I would show how to attach a solid top crust, because I have had several people ask, I saw you did the lattice, will you show us how to attach a second crust, full crust? And this will be the same for like a chicken pot pie, same method. Apple pie. The reason people use lattice often for fruit pies is because it allows more moisture to escape. And so that's important for really juicy fruits. So that's a consideration to use if you're deciding between using lattice versus the full crust, which is what we'll do today. Okay. So just kind of warming this up a bit. We'll unwrap it. Here, just peek at my, make sure I answered. I did answer that. Okay. I think we're good. I just wanted to make sure I got, next time I need to make like an itinerary. So I don't miss anything, but sounds like y'all are, be sure to send your questions. If you have any questions, just send it in the chat and I will answer it.
Tom asks,
Oh.
why did you add salt to the apples?
Oh, I just like a little salt to balance the sweet. So it's just a little, and that's always kind of just a good rule of thumb. If you're going to be making something sweet, just to add a little salt to it. It rounds out all the flavors. It brings out other flavors. So salt is, as long as it's okay, for you to use, I like to add salt.
Barbara says she didn't know about how the lattice helps moisture escape.
Yes, definitely. So I'm just, as before, just kind of flattening it out, making sure everything's holding together. And remember, if there was a dry patch, you can drizzle a little water and just press it back together. This one is nice and moist, and I can actually, I should turn the oven on. And obviously won't be able to show you the finished pie, but I will post a picture of it or something so y'all can see how it turned out. I'm not gonna make you wait while it bakes. Okay, so I'm just pressing it out. And it's getting a little sticky on top, so let's go ahead and roll it out. You can see the butter in there for sure. I thought I smelled a little bit of the vodka, but last time when we did a vodka crust recently, you could not taste it at all. But it was really cool, the flakes that it made. It was, as I said on the video, and my daughter said when she tried it, she goes, it's like a croissant. Because it was so flaky. And that's exactly what I said on the video. So I was like, I said the same thing. So we were pretty impressed. If you want to try subbing in 1 or 2 tablespoons vodka for water. For some people have mentioned on here, they use all vodka. So that's interesting. And I got the best story. I kind of want to read the whole comment.
Before that, Bonnie asks, what temp do you bake the apple pie at?
So I bake it at 415 degrees, 200 degrees Celsius for 20 minutes. And that initial bake is nice and hot to set the crust, crisp up the bottom. And then after that high temperature bake, we turn it down to 375 and cook for 40 to 50 minutes or until the crust is golden, the apples are tender, and the filling bubbles. You'll see it kind of a few pops. And it actually, you can't, I guess, if you have the whole crust on. So that's harder to tell. But I would go for 40 or 50 minutes till the crust is nice and golden. And if you are having trouble, if your crust is getting too brown in some places, first of all, definitely rotate the pan, every 20 minutes or so, and you'll avoid having hot spots, which can over brown or burn certain spots. So do rotate your pan. Also, you can make yourself a little cover for the pie where you set it on your pie plate like this, and it protects the edges while still letting the steam escape in the center. So hopefully that answers your question on how long.
Sharon asks, do you think I could use flavored vodka? That's all I have on hand.
Oh, that's an interesting thought. I think it sounds interesting. Like if it was lemon or if it was something that would go with apple, whatever pie you're making, I think that would be fine. And actually this comment that, that somebody left, I think they've used a variety of alcohols in their pie crust. So I think if flavored vodka, if it went with the filling, I think that would be fine. And it may burn off completely. You may not taste it.
Sharon says she has lemon.
Okay, I think lemon would be interesting. I think it would be really interesting. Well, I can't seem to find this comment, but I believe what this really interesting story I was going to read to you said. They said it was after Hurricane Camille and all the water was bad. You couldn't use any of the water. And so Granny and Great Aunt wanted to make a peach pie because they had a peach tree. They said the peaches were about to drop. So they wanted to make a pie with the peaches, but they couldn't use any of the water. So they started using all different types of liquor instead. They used, I think, brandy for one. They used sweet wines even for one. From based on that comment, it sounds like other liquors will work too. If you want to try it. So I'm just going to roll this out, turn it. If I were doing lattice, I would want to roll out more in a kind of a rectangular shape because you want your lattice pieces kind of nice and long. But since this is going on top, we're going to go ahead and do the nice round shape. Only reason I was a little bit nervous about using vodka in a pie crust that I'm making for a friend is because I'm not sure that it 100% burns off. A lot of it burns off, but I'm not sure exactly how much retains. And I know that they have some, don't drink. At least 2 of them do not drink anymore because they had a problem. So I was a little worried about putting vodka in their pie crust just because I know some people are just an absolute no. So it's something to keep in mind if you have people coming to Thanksgiving who maybe are avoiding alcohol in any form.
Do you ever use a lattice cutter?
Yes, I do. I love my lattice cutter. I use it a lot. It's Wilton brand. Jack, do you know what I'm talking about?
Not
The orange one with the.
I think so.
I think it's. That means he doesn't want to get it for me. Anyway, I have a Wilton lattice cutter, and it actually has where you can cut 2 pieces of lattice at the same time. And I use it often. I think it's in my apple pie show. There are other ones where you can just cut single. Actually, I have a roller where you can cut a single one. The only reason I don't use it sometimes is I kind of prefer kind of different sized lattice. I like a thick one and then a thin one and then a medium, so it looks kind of like a plaid. It's just I like that just imperfect. Y'all know I like imperfect pies.
Gina asks, are you on Facebook? I want to share my pie.
Oh, I'm sort of on Facebook. I know I have an account, but I just don't go on it. So, and I don't really have one for my channel, unfortunately, either.
You do have Instagram.
I do have Instagram. It's at Marie Saba. You can tag me there, and I would love to see it. You can message it to me there. It's at Marie Saba, just my name. I'm on there more often, and I know how to check it. And of course, I asked my kids to help me with Facebook, and they don't even know how. No, they don't use it anymore. So unfortunately, it's not a great, but you can also email me, marie@mariesaba.com. And I can look at your images that way too. I would love to see your pies. I would just love to do a whole, show all of them, the beautiful, beautiful artistic things that everyone makes. It'd be so fun to share. So do send them my way.
Fred says I use a pizza cutter for my lettuce.
That's yes, that's probably what I will use. Okay, this looks, I think is going to be big enough. And ideally, well, what I did last year, what was it for Christmas maybe? Put this between 2 pieces of saran wrap. Are you looking for it, Jack? I think it's in this one, in that plastic bucket that right there. No, right here. There's a pie section. I think it was in there, but I have this problem where I keep putting things where I won't forget them and then completely forget where I put them. So thank you so much for the live videos. I think it's so sweet. I have a 4.5-year-old son and a 7-month. Oh, that's so wonderful. Oh, you're so lucky. You're so lucky. My kids were in the kitchen at 7. Jack definitely was. And it's so fun. It felt like it was so hard at the time. And then all of a sudden now he's in high school. So I know people always say enjoy it, but that's sweet. I'm so glad you're here. Now let's finish making our apple pie. what I was saying is that I did wrap this in saran wrap, and I put it on a baking sheet and put it in the refrigerator. If you have the space, you can do that. It's a great way to keep this cold. And I don't know if I'll do that right now. Let me see. Isn't this cool? You can pick it up. I knew a lady once who made a lot of pies, and she's like, you cannot pick up my pie crust because it's so tender, which is also admirable. There's no way this is going to fit in my freezer before Thanksgiving, but I'm going to move this over here for a second. There we go. And you could put some saran wrap over that and put that in the freezer if you wanted to do this a little bit ahead. I'm going to pop it in the fridge while we assemble the rest of the pie. Maybe. Okay, got it in there. Just propped it up on the sweet pickles and the mayonnaise, and it's in there. It's great. Okay.
Sharon said, I just checked your Instagram, Katie Couric. And then Barbara says, I can relate to that one. Put things, quote, in quotes, away and can't find them.
Oh, gosh. Why do I keep doing it? It's anyway. But yes, I made pies last year with Katie Couric in New York in her apartment, and that is on my Instagram. Our little, and the year before we did it via Zoom, but last year I got to go to New York, and it was so much fun. She is an absolute delight. Like, people ask, is she really that wonderful? And I'm like, she is. She sang for us. She played the piano. She let my daughter hold her Emmy. I mean, while we were waiting for the pie to bake, we cleaned out the freezer. She just opened her freezer and started, well, that's too old. That's too old. Anybody want this? Do your kids want this? I mean, it's just, I felt like so at home.
And then someone else also says, I'm the worst at putting things away.
It's just, I always never feel so bad because you know what happened? My dad, when it was my brothers, and they had 4 kids. I have 3 brothers. So I have to be a little empathetic about this, but it was his birthday, one of my brother's birthdays, and my dad put the cake away in a place that he wouldn't forget, and he forgot. Didn't have a cake, and then 4 months later, we opened a cabinet, and the cake was in there with so much mold on it. It was just a family story. We will never let him live that one down. It was so funny. And I feel like, here I am now. I haven't lost a cake yet. Oh, the dog.
Let her out.
Cookbook. Come on in, girl. Okay, we need to assemble the pie. Did I miss anything? Okay. Yep. Yeah, and if you go to Katie Couric's YouTube channel, I believe there's also the pie demonstration is also on there, at least from one year. But she is so special. Okay, I'm gonna we'll assemble the pie and then add the top crust and then send more questions as we go. Here's our pie filling we made yesterday. This is an amazing make-ahead option. You cook the apples ahead, put them in the freezer. You can leave them in there for, I don't know, a few months. And then when you're ready to use them, just pull them out and have your crust in there, and you can just throw together an apple pie. So I love this make-ahead option. Now, I just do want to mention they are not fully cooked. So I know there are some apple pie filling recipes where the apples are fully cooked, so you can put them on ice cream or do whatever with them. These would need to be cooked longer if you're going to use them in that way, like, oh, apple pie filling on ice cream or something like that. These are not quite cooked down enough. They're just cooked until tender, about 20 minutes. You want them like, sort of soft, which is not helpful. You get the idea. All right, to assemble this, we'll take this off. Let me grab. Sharon, I would love to come cook with you in New Jersey. We usually go every Thanksgiving, but this year we couldn't. So, but we love going to New Jersey. And then what we do is then we go visit my sister-in-law in New Jersey and stay in Montclair. And it's so wonderful. We love everything just because it's such a change of scenery for us in Texas. It's cold and there's just like foliage and it's just so much fun. And so we go there usually for Thanksgiving for a few days. And then on the back end, we go to New York City for a few days. And that's when I went to cook with Katie Kirk. Actually, I think it was swapped. It was New York first, but we just have so much fun. One time in a video, I mentioned that I was going to New York and this lady, she was so funny. She goes, "Why?" I get that. I know not everybody loves New York City, especially probably if, I don't know. You may not love it. There are reasons not to love it, but it's really fun for us. We go ice skating at Central Park. We try to see a Broadway show. We just eat really well and it's so fun. So Sharon, I would love to cook with you in New Jersey. I'd really love to go around and cook with all of you. I just think that would be so much fun. And even though I know a lot about pies, there's a lot of things I don't know about. And I would love to learn that from all of y'all. I know you all have your own specialties that would be so cool to learn. Okay, so what I'm doing, the key to apple pie is you want to press it down because otherwise you're going to have these big holes when you go to cut it. So press down a layer and then add a little more and press down. You'll have more when you go to cut it. It's going to be more like stacked apples. It's going to be stacked. Is that right, Jack?
I don't know.
Is that a word? Is that a compliment? I don't know. Sounds like one. Are there any other questions?
Not yet.
Yes, I agree. NYC in small doses is just right. We always get to the end and we're like, fresh air, no more taxis. We got to get out of here. So it's nice to visit. Okay, so I'm, filling this up and pressing it down. So it's going to be nice and tight. And you can, add more filling. I had some more here, depending on how high you want it. And just remember that this is not really going to move. So if you want it this high, then do this. If you want it a little higher, you can add it, but it's not going to move too much. It might sink down just a bit, but really not too much. I don't generally do like mile high apple pie. Actually, I'm sure that's pretty for Instagram or whatever, or cool, but I don't really see the point of it. It just makes it hard to serve and cut. So okay, so we've got our apples nicely pressed in. I know somebody asked about this. I know somebody asked about preventing a soggy bottom on the apple pie, and what we're doing is helping with that. If I haven't already answered it, it's the cold crust and the cooked filling. So it's not just like a ton of watery juice sitting in there. It's nice and thickened with the flour.
Someone's from France and they said, "I love your channel."
Oh my gosh. That's dreamy. I've never been to France, but I would love to go to France. That's so cool. Thank you. I'm flattered that even someone in France likes my cooking, because I know that's where cooking is, French food, French chefs. Wow. Okay, let me get the top crust out and we'll attach it. Maybe I'll put a little bit more in. That'd be pretty, right? Looks good. And you definitely want to cook your apple pie on a baking sheet. I'll show you that real quick in a minute. That will prevent it from cooking over and making a huge mess in your oven. Grab the top crust. We'll also need an egg. Let me get that first. Oh yeah, don't forget, take deep breaths, especially if pie makes you nervous or upset. Pie should not be upsetting. So take a deep breath, just relax. Here is our chilled other pie crust. You can see all that beautiful butter in there. We're gonna just set that on top, kind of even it out so it's on kind of the center.
DG said, pie can sense fear.
Yes, that might be true. Oh, that's too funny. That's so funny. They know when you're scared. Okay. Now at this point, because we already have such a thick crust here and we have a lot here, I remember someone did ask me, should I fold all that under? Because that's going to be huge. I agree with you. That's probably too much crust. So all you need here is really enough to fit under the edge that we've already made. So you can just pull some off like this. And this crust, because it was in the freezer, is a little bit tough right now. It's a little bit, might be hard to connect to, but it'll warm up as we're working. So you just pull it up. If it's warm, it will pull up easily. And then you just fold this under. So the second crust folded under, and it's not adding a lot of bulk to it. So I'm not using all this. And these scraps we can cook or use for decorations. So a lot of people have mentioned that their grandma used to cook pie scraps, pie crust scraps with cinnamon and sugar on them. And there are these little pie crust cookies. I've heard from a lot of people that they always look forward to those little scraps. So.
Someone said I always get an uncooked bottom of my pies. Do you know why?
That is the most common complaint about pies. It can be for different reasons. One, or there's some things you can do to avoid it. And those are, for one, like I'm doing here. First of all, if it gets too soggy down there, it can be hard. It won't cook up well. So a lot of trying to get a better cooked crust is avoiding it becoming soggy with the filling, if that makes sense. So, which is why, as I mentioned, we cook the filling first. So we're not pouring a bunch of juice in there and making it soggy before it goes in the oven. Because again, once it's kind of a soggy crust juice mess down there, it's going to be hard to crisp it, and it's going to seem uncooked because it is so watered down. So that's kind of how I usually interpret or cooked crust or soggy bottom, is really that it probably just soaked in the filling and never was able to firm up. Other things you can do to avoid the soggy bottom is, one, what we do is we always cook at a very high temperature for the first 20 minutes. And I feel that that helps crisp everything up. So you'll want to cook it. I cook it at 415 for 20 minutes. And if you're really, sounds like you're having a real problem with soggy bottom crust. So what you can do is put it in the lower third of your oven, or everyone can do that if they want. And that is, you'll have more heat at the bottom. So it's more likely, especially at that high temperature, to really cook the bottom crust. So those are really the two main things. Is I would do everything you can to avoid letting the crust get soggy prior to baking, because I think that has a huge effect on how the bottom crust turns out. and then also using the high temperature and placing your pie lower in the oven. I think that will help.
And then Angie said, "Happy Thanksgiving to Marie and your family. Blessings from my home to yours."
Oh, thank you so much, Angie. Sweet. Thank you. Blessings to y'all too, and hope your Thanksgiving's wonderful and just nice, you know. You know, I heard something on the radio the other day, and they were talking about Thanksgiving, and the expert said, I don't think there should be no cooking on Thanksgiving. You should be, I guess, all prepared. And I just thought, you know, at least in our family, cooking is Thanksgiving. And I know that's not everybody, but like my kids are in the kitchen, my dad's here, you know, we're all just like bumping into each other, trying to get everything kind of made, and everything smells amazing. And, you know, we're just chatting and cooking. So I am like, yes, we should cook on Thanksgiving. I mean, definitely do a bunch of stuff ahead so you don't feel stressed, but plan some cooking and plan some to get your kids involved, get them in the kitchen, let them smell the rosemary or the sage or the thyme, and just like start to associate all these smells and good feelings with this holiday. I think it makes it more special. So, no, that's not why you're here for my counseling, but so now to make the decorative edge for the apple pie, I usually often use my knuckle, or you can use your thumb, whichever makes it easier for you to reach. I think in this case, the knuckle's a little bit easier, so I'm going to do that. And I'm just using 2 fingers and pressing the knuckle between it, and it's making a nice, fat, fluted edge. Really pretty. And some people have said, oh, I made my pie and the edge is kind of disappeared. It just melted into crust. And that happens often with all butter, you know, really flaky pie crust. It will kind of melt into more flat, which is fine. Don't worry about it. It's going to taste so delicious. I know it's disappointing though if you worked hard on it, but freezing the pie before you put it in the oven can help with that. It can help it hold its shape. And then again, using the hot oven on the really cold crust can help sear it in place.
And then Donna says, "Happy Thanksgiving to Marie and your family. I know you're doing apple pie, but do you know when pumpkin pie is done? Or how do you know?"
So pumpkin pie, you don't want to overcook it. And that's really what usually happens. It'll start to crack and when it's overcooked. And that's also one of the reasons I suggest the decorations you can add after, because you can cover up all your cracks. But generally it's done when, if you jiggle it, it stays in place, except for maybe a tiny bit in the center. There's just a little wiggle, because that will continue cooking as it cools. So that's what you're going for with pumpkin pie, is like a little, when you jiggle it, it's just the center is the only part that moves, and that should finish cooking as it sits. Some people, what they'll do, and I think this is really interesting advice, I want to try it, is turn off the oven, open the door to the oven, and leave the pumpkin pie in there. And so it's still kind of warm, but very low heat that continues to sort of, it cools down slowly and it finishes cooking. So I like the cool down slowly because that can help also prevent cracks. So hopefully that helps with pumpkin
Keith
pie.
says, "I often see people use a fork in the pie crust on the edges."
Yes, definitely. Fork around is lovely. I think the Insecure Chef mentioned yesterday, I think he uses a spoon to decorate, which you can do. You can do a braid. We should do that on one pie. You can braid an extra pie crust and attach that on the edge. I mean, we did good, guys. Look at that. It's so beautiful. It feels really great. So that's how you attach the second crust. That's how you make the decorative edge. This would apply to chicken pot pie or whatever else you're making. If you are making a really juicy pie, like a berry pie, do generally recommend something with more air holes like Lattice. Okay, now you don't want to forget your little steam holes, because the steam is going to be released, and so you don't want it to get trapped under there. That would try to come out the sides. So we're just going to make a little slit here, slit here, slit here, kind of in a cross shape like that. So then you have your little, those will be steam holes to let the juice come out. Now, if these apples weren't cooked and I was doing this, there would be liquid going everywhere. That used to happen in some pie classes. Now what I'm going to do is put this back in the freezer for just a bit, just to firm it up, and then we'll throw it in the oven. And we'll do the egg wash, which I can show you real quick. But after that, I think we're almost done here. Any other questions? Then we have our little scraps here. We can, we'll get out our decorations too. Someone else asked on if they have a big problem with their pie crust shrinking. She says every time she makes a crust, no matter what it is, it shrinks down. And hopefully I addressed that with the don't overwork it. Make sure you give the gluten time to rest by chilling it. Don't stretch it when you're putting it into the pie plate. You set it in, make sure you roll it big enough, and then set it in. You also want to chill the crust and then use a high temperature that can help it stay in place. And then if you are blind baking, be sure to watch one of my blind baking videos or my earlier pie crust tutorial where I show how to put something in the center and then the bowl in the center and all that to help hold the pie crust in place.
A question.
If you don't have that set up in the center, it is going to sink down on itself. I'll show you here in a minute.
A question from
Hopefully that helps with shrinking crust. Yeah.
A question from Christine is there a special sugar you put on after you egg wash?
You know, I like to use raw sugar. It's very easy to find, and it's Jack, do you mind grabbing it? It's just the real coarse brown sugar. Let me put this in. So for the egg wash, he's gonna get the raw sugar we'll put on, and this is just, it's sugar in the raw. You can find it in the sugar aisle. You don't have to go to a specialty store, and it's just this really coarse. I don't know if you can see it. Really coarse sugar. You might have seen it at a coffee shop, or maybe you use it, but it's just raw sugar. I don't know, less processed probably. And you can sprinkle that on top, and it makes it really kind of glossy. I mean, glittery and shiny. It's really nice. So that's what I use. Egg wash. I just wanted to show you real quick. So we'll put the egg in there, and you could probably achieve the same result by just using the yolk, but I'll just show you real quick.
Christy said, I just blind baked the vodka pie crust and it looks amazing.
Oh, that's great. So happy to hear that. I've had a lot of good feedback on the method. Let me just show real quick. So the blind bake method that she's talking about is when you have your raw pie crust, pretend this is a raw pie crust. It's not, it's a vodka pie crust that we cooked actually and tested. But if this was a raw pie crust and you wanted to bake it in the oven, blind bake it without any filling in the center, because you're going to add like a cool custard filling later, you would take your raw pie crust. I set an aluminum pie plate with the edges flattened out. I set that in the center, and then I put the bowl in the center, and that holds everything in place. And so it's not going to move when you blind bake it. So I do have more explanations of that, but just want to make sure you have that if you're making a custard pie. Okay. Real quickly on the egg wash. And I get a lot of questions from people about using egg wash on blind baked crust. I don't usually use it. I did use it one time on I was blind baking the crust a little bit for a pumpkin pie. And I thought, well, I'll egg wash it too, because that'll kind of, they say it protects the crust from the filling, making it soggy. So I did that. And what happened was there was kind of like some globs in the egg wash. And once I poured the pumpkin filling in there, the globs kind of rose to the top because they were on the edges. And it just made it so ugly. So I thought, you know what? I'm not doing egg wash on a blind bake crust for pumpkin pie. So anyway, that's what I do.
The stream's been 2 hours now.
Okay, I'm almost done. I'm sad though. This is so much fun. Okay, I'm going to add a teaspoon of water and give that a whisk. And then you just need to get, I don't know where my little strainers are, but you need a little strainer. And then what you'll do is just pour this through it. Well,
Someone said, "Hi Marie, SoCal viewer here. Love your channel. Have you ever baked a pie with frozen fruit?"
Yes, I have, and I had that question yesterday. And I need to. I've not done a lot of fruit pies lately with frozen fruit, but you definitely can. I've done peach and blueberry with frozen fruit. I believe, if I remember, I just left the fruit frozen, tossed it with the sugar and whatever else, and then threw that in. I don't think you need to thaw and drain it. And this egg is not really doing. Maybe it was just too cold. It's not separating that well. But so what results is just a very thin egg wash that glides on really easily. Let me just get a little pastry brush. Okay, and that didn't make a lot, but hopefully it's enough. Usually it's a little easier. Maybe I need a little more water. Okay, we'll grab the apple pie and do our egg wash. And yeah, 1 second. Okay, so here is our chilled apple pie, looking great. We'll do a little egg wash on it.
Gloria said, "How do you get the food coloring off your hands?"
That's a good question. I mean, just wash it a few times. That's all I can. Get some soap and water. I don't know beyond that. It does kind of get all over your fingers though when you're placing the leaves. That's for sure. So just brushing this on the crust, and really you just don't want like any big piles of it because you'll see it after it cooks. So kind of try to keep it spread out, not kind of in a puddle. That's the word I was looking for, puddle. Okay. And I've had some people ask, like, "Oh my gosh, how would you make a pie in a black shirt? Like, you'd end up with flour all over you." But I remember someone told me that her mom always wore her baking black, and it was black. She always wore black when she baked. And so now, for some reason, whenever I often wear black anyway, but I like to wear it when I'm baking. It makes me feel like brave.
Someone said you can use rubbing alcohol to help get the food dye off your hands.
Okay, good. There you go. Rubbing alcohol seems to be a solution to a lot of things. So yeah, I wear my baking black. I'm not afraid of a little flour. And the way I learned that was I did a few years ago, and I still kind of want to get back to it, but I did a little project called What My Mother Made. And it was all just stories from people about something their mother made or father, what they cooked. And I just loved all the answers I got. I just asked everyone that I could. And maybe if you could send me something that your mother made. And I have an Instagram account that I was doing for a while. And so what I would do is post a picture of a very old picture of either you and your mother or the dish, and then post that with the story. And it was just such a beautiful compilation. If you do have a story of something that your mother made and you have a picture of your mother or father, mother just kind of rhymes better in the sentence. But if you have a photo of your mother with the dish, or a photo of the dish, or a photo of, an old photo, send that over with the story of what your mother made. And it can be, a lot of people's was like a toast, or egg in a hole, or she made this, so many, but the stories were so neat. One person told me the story of like when it would snow in New Jersey and they would come back inside and the mom had warm cinnamon rolls and her hands were frozen, and to pick up a warm cinnamon roll was just like, okay, I'll stop. Anyway, send those over. I know you guys have great stories.
Donna said, first time I made a pumpkin pie, I used your recipe. I just took it out of the oven and it's perfect. Decorative leaves all over. Thank you so much.
Great.
And then
that was Donna?
Yeah.
Send me a picture, Donna. I would love to see it. I'm so happy to hear that. Oh, that's so wonderful. What else?
And then someone else said, have you ever made sourdough bread without a Dutch oven?
I have not. I have actually never made sourdough bread that I can remember. I make some no-knead bread and some dinner rolls and some other bread, but I've never made sourdough. But the no-knead bread that I make, I just do it on, I don't like using the Dutch oven method because you have to heat it to like 500 and then you take this boiling hot pot out of the oven. And so I just bake my bread on it. I make it into a loaf and bake it on a baking sheet, and I think it comes out great. But I don't know if that's your question, but anyway, look how beautiful this is. Isn't it lovely? Can you see it? It's just stunning. It's like glowing with the sugar and the egg wash. So I'm going in the oven now at 415. And be sure to slide your pie crust all the way into the oven. I noticed, at least with my oven, if it's kind of towards the front of the shelf, it doesn't get cooked. Like you need to press it in, and that's where the heat is. So little tips. I guess we'll stop there. I didn't do any decoration on it. I feel like this has probably been long enough, but thanks so much for joining me. I'm so thrilled that you're here. If you like it, be sure to, give us a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe. If you can share one of my videos that you loved with other people, that would mean so much. It'll be closer to maybe us getting to do a cookbook. So that all that support really helps. Or if you want to become a member and have some better ways to connect, that would be awesome. And we appreciate the support so much. And happy Thanksgiving to everyone. So grateful for all of you. Thank you. Any other questions? No, I don't see any. Okay, you can still send questions. I may get to them. It is Thanksgiving, so I've got a lot to do myself, but we'll get all your pie problems solved. So thanks so much. Happy Thanksgiving.